Right, so we are 3 episodes into the amazing digital circus, and to be honest, I'm still not captivated. I practically forgot about the release of this episode until 2 days before. I'm really not all that invested in Pomni as a protagonist, and there's very little in the way of overarching story for me to latch on and stay invested with. However, many of the other characters in the show have captivated my interest by themselves. Jax being an unapologetic dick is hilarious, the personality of Gummy Goo was very admirable, and as of recently I found myself very impressed with the words and actions of Kinga. Let's talk about that. For those of you who are either unaware, haven't watched episode 3 yet, or are disassociating from life so hard you managed to forget within 3 weeks, Kinga is the member of the digital circus that's been trapped in here the longest, excluding the AI of course. In episode 1 and 2 he was used almost entirely as the comic relief, with his actions portrayed as someone who has almost completely lost their mind and is right on the verge of abstracting. Even before we get into his true backstory and further development of his character, I'm a big fan of this version of Kinga. The jokes made using him are by and large the funniest in the show, and unlike Jax who uses a harsher, more adult form of comedy, and Gangle who's just pathetic, Kinga's actions are universally funny. His character isn't played for the sake of you feeling sorry for a man who's lost his mind in these 2 episodes either. He's played as a random and over-the-top character just for the sake of it. If you've ever played D&D, you know several characters like this, and they're very fun to be around. Kinga's style of humour also lends itself very well to Glitch as a studio. Kevin Temer's exaggerated and cartoonish animation style fits very well with the sudden nature of the jokes involving Kinga, and Sean Chiplock delivers the audible elements of his jokes with plenty of emotion, and the sense that Kinga is acting in a way that he sees as completely normal, which helps to sell it even more. Another aspect of Kinga that I really appreciate is his ability to add extra depth to other characters just by forcing them to interact with him. How a character responds to someone like Kinga can tell the audience a lot about their perspective on those who appear different or less stable than themselves. Jax, as he does with everyone, is a total dick to Kinga, insulting him behind his back and to his face, ignoring potential danger he may put Kinga in, and speaking down to him. Ragatha treats him like you would an aging grandparent, soft and compassionate to his face, but secretly admits to the fact that they aren't very capable by themselves. And Gangle is very nervous around him, frightened of what his warped mind will convince him to do next. Each character's reaction to Kinga exemplifies their true nature. Jax is an asshole, Ragatha attempts to comfort others but secretly has low expectations for them, and Gangle is a nervous wreck. If this was everything Kinga was in the show, I would be okay with that. Sure, there isn't a whole lot to him, but with the comic relief characters there really doesn't need to be. As long as Goose could find a way to keep his comedy fresh, it would be fine leaving him as is. He also serves to show the audience a step in between the rest of the cast and abstraction, so it works quite well to cement the setting. But it was episode 3 that turned Kinga from a decent addition to my favourite character in the show. The mystery of Mildenhall Manor is Kinga's episode. Yes, Goose said it was supposed to be for Kinga and Zooble, but come on now. This is Kinga's episode. The first sign of that happening was when Kinga and Pomni, our everyman protagonist / self-insert for the audience, were split off from the rest of the group. The 2 were then placed into a dangerous situation and forced to think quickly in order to survive. This is the quintessential setup for character development, and unlike in episode 2 where the whole cast was present, this time it's just our dynamic duo. As they navigate the halls of the manor, Kinga also goes from simply comic relief to the driving force behind their collective decisions. He makes smart choices that make sense with the information he has available to him, and aside from one instance where he acts very strangely indeed, and another where he reverts to his comedic roots, he takes the entire situation seriously. This is not the Kinga we knew from the past 2 episodes, and it immediately gets the audience's brain working as to the why and to the how. The strange act I mentioned works as more foreshadowing to the eventual reveal that Kinga is able to maintain more of his consciousness in the dark, as it's where his strongest core memory is, the last memory he had with his wife. Kinga's wife, who the fandom has collectively named Queena, was introduced all the way back in the pilot, but you have to have some serious theory brain in order to remember it, as it was only in the background for a single scene. The reintroduction of her now, 2 episodes later, really helps in making the world appear more real. In the presence of many NPCs and characters that come and go, some permanence beyond the main cast is very helpful, and tying that to Kinga makes me appreciate him much more. The choice of this memory specifically also creates a strong empathetic reaction towards Kinga. Lots of the audience of this show is old enough to know the feeling of losing a loved one. Whether that be through death or breakup, the emotion is very relatable. Goose could have chosen a core memory that's purely tragic or scarring, but to feature one that is bittersweet, where a loved one is lost but you have that final opportunity with them, gives a lot more nuance to the moment and shows the depth of Kinga as a character. It also shows the depth of his love for his wife. Despite all the decades that Kinga has likely spent locked in the circus and the many adventures that Kane has put him through, this one memory, this one moment is strong enough to pull him back into reality every single time. The ability for Kinga to regain his sense of self in the dark is also somewhat consistent with real life. Triggers are often seen in patients with conditions such as dementia or post-traumatic stress. While in the case of the latter, it does the opposite of what we're seeing with Kinga. It is known that emotions can help right the brain and mend broken memories, at least for a short period of time. The final part of Kinga's personality that I was a big fan of in episode 3 was his fatherly nature towards Pomni. It's very well established that Pomni does not do very well with horror, and that shows throughout the episode. She's consistently on edge, makes rash and angered decisions, and completely breaks down near the end of the episode due to stress and anxiety. I feel you there, girl. Kinga steps up in these moments where Pomni is weakest. He leads her through the mansion in the dark, he protects her without a second thought once he gets the shotgun, and he's there to comfort her when she cries while they're in hell. Kinga exemplifies the traits of a good father, which is rare to see in real life, never mind in the fictional space where fathers are often dead, abusive, or the leaders of the very organization the protagonist is trying to bring down. Overall, Kinga, both as a source of comedy in episodes 1 and 2, and a fully realized and nuanced character in episode 3, has become one of my favorite aspects in Digital Circus. I commend Goose for the way she's written him, and he's one of the main reasons I will be back for episode 4. But that's all I've got for today. Thank you all for watching, and have a good one.